To choose between a paycheck and their health. Whether it's for a new baby, an unexpected illness, or an aging parent, Minnesotans deserve time to care for themselves and their families. That's why Minnesota Democrats are fighting for all working people to have paid family and medical leave. The time is now. Contact your legislator and tell them to pass paid family and medical leave for Minnesota. Learn more at paidleavemn.org. That's paidleavemn.org. Paid for by the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7-NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every Metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
This November, we have a clear choice for who's truly fighting for our Indigenous communities in Minnesota. Democrats created the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force, made college tuition free for Native scholars, and legally affirmed our Native sovereignty. By signing co-stewardship agreements to manage federal lands, we return the lands of the Upper Sioux State Park to the Upper Sioux tribe and over 11,000 acres back to the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. This November, vote for the party that stands with our community. Vote Democrat. Paid for by the Minnesota Democrat Farmer Labor Party.
For everything you need to know about voting in Minnesota, visit the Secretary of State's website at mnvotes.org. Find out where to vote, check registration status, and view sample ballots. Again, for all your voting information, go to mnvotes.org.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local, national, Native news and events. And as you know, Chujunk, portions of the show may be pre-recorded. I hear a couple times there, but as you know, Native issues. Oh, thank you. Oh. You saw Choka slipping there. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Strong Hearts offers culturally appropriate support and advocacy for Native Americans. You can call or text them anytime for free at 1-844-7-NATIVE or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org.
Hey, one of the things we got going on here is we have really great guests. And
that's true.
And one of our friends that we haven't seen since the media Christmas party is going to be on tomorrow, and excited to see her again. And Haley, can you guess who it is?
I think we're talking about the governor's cookie party. And my guess is Minnesota's First Lady, Mrs. Gwen Walls.
Yes, we'll have Gwen on tomorrow, and that'll be exciting. And we haven't seen her in a while, and she's kind of busy, so it's really nice that she's going to spend some time with us tomorrow and talk over things.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gwen Walls hopefully will be the next second lady of the United States coming up here. And yeah, we're going to talk about early voting, especially in Minnesota, which I saw Gwen and Governor Tim Walz and their son Gus actually went and early voted today.
Wow, that's great. And Gus is a first-time voter, and we always talk about how important it is to be a first-time voter because you'll normally vote the rest of your life, and that's a good thing, and statistics show that. And I know I did, and my first presidential election was Reagan versus Jimmy Carter, and Ronald the Reagan ended up winning, and it's been a mess ever since.
Yeah, something's definitely off here in our political parties most of the time, but yeah, it's exciting to be able to talk to Gwen, and I know yeah, Gus is a first-time voter. I voted in my first election. Geez, that was when I went off to college, so I think I voted up in the Duluth area, but I voted in every presidential election there's been since I've been able to vote. And then I also know people who have never voted in a presidential election who didn't when they turned 18 and who still haven't voted. So yeah, I think that saying is true. I think when you do vote for the first time and you learn about it when you're 18, you are kind of more a lifelong voter.
That gets to a point that I like to talk about, and they say that half the country's crazy MAGAs, but really it's a third of the country because half the country doesn't vote.
Yeah, I know. He's
So, I mean,
something else.
well, it's
He
not
did.
as I guess my point is it's not as many people as
Yeah.
people like to say, and I have a really good feeling, and a lot of the people that I've looked at for who's going to be president has predicted Kamala, and one of them was Michael Moore, and I know you and I have talked about this before too. Is that he predicted Trump winning in 2016, and he was on a TV show, and he got booed, and then he said
Yeah.
why, and now then he predicted Biden, and now he's predicting Kamala by a landslide. And I really believe it's really great that people talk about voting, remind of voting, and I think we were a little lax on that, thinking that no way this orange guy who has a TV show and many bankruptcies and that the country would vote for him, but they did. And I think they were looking for a change, and I think even some Bernie voters voted for him. And I know I didn't, but I was a Bernie guy for change, and I could see that it was all coming up. But now, let's make racists afraid again. Let's vote in Kamala.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I know we're probably going to talk more election stuff. Bob Blake's going to hop on with us this first half, hopefully shortly here. Oh, there he is. But Representative Heather Keeler is going to be on the second half of the show with some special guests,
Yeah.
current DFL candidates that are running for seats in this year's Minnesota House election, including Michael Reyes from Leech Lake and Reed Olson. And both Reed and Michael are kind of from the Bemidji area here in Minnesota. And this past Monday on Native Roots Radio, we got the chance to interview Maria Issa, who is also a House representative, and Natani Means, because they're hosting a free admission show titled Our Voices Restored in Bemidji this coming Saturday.
Yeah.
And that looks fun. I know it's like a kind of like a whole day thing from 11 a.m. to 5 at the Sanford Center Ballroom in Bemidji. There's going to be live music, resource booths, a lunch, speakers, and breakout sessions on how to make your voice heard this election season and every election.
That's kind of a good segue because Bob Blake is from Red Lake, and we like to say Bob Blake from Red Lake, but Robert Lake with the Solar Bear with the Solar News, and I know he drives up and around all over preaching the good words of renewable energy. And great to see you, Bob. And yeah, it was a tough one, but maybe you can give us a quick report. Welcome to Native Roots Radio, and we know you're a diehard Vikings fan.
Robert, yeah, Robert, one thing that was really cool I got to do yesterday was I got to be on a panel, and we talked about with educators, and we got to talk to educators from across the country, and like college professors, right? And we got to talk about land back and lake back movement, the movement, and I kind of felt like being a part of that was really cool because in my presentation I was really able to explain to them what really happened, what happened with the upper part of Red Lake, and why it is so important to the people of the Red Lake Nation that we get that upper piece of the lake back, because that was it was stolen. I mean, it was wrong in how that whole thing went down. So being able to discuss that with educators from across the country, I had a bunch of them come up to me after the presentation and just said, "Wow, that was wonderful. I had no idea." And it really dawned on me that this is the way that we as Native people fight back through education, and through education professionals to properly educate these folks on this issue, right? And they're able to relay that message to their students, to other folks, and then this gets around. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think I heard the story first from you when that was all going down up at the Capitol, and we got a minute. Can you just remind our listeners about what happened when this treaty and the lake map was drawn out?
Yeah. So Henry Rice was the guy who was, kind of asked to go and do this negotiation with the tribe, and the chiefs did the negotiation in good faith. They drew their boundary lines. There's even quotes from the tribal chiefs at the time who said that this is the lake is ours. We're not giving up this to anyone, to anybody. Red Lake is that of our children and that of our grandchildren. Long story short, the upper half part of Red Lake was cut in half by the time Henry Rice arrived in Washington, and the chiefs thought that was wrong, and so we've been fighting it ever since 1890.
Wow. Hey, we're here with Bob Blake, and we're going to talk solar news with Solar Bear and get some education about everything. Great to see you, Bob. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
No one should have to choose between a paycheck and their health. Whether it's for a new baby, an unexpected illness, or an aging parent, Minnesotans deserve time to care for themselves and their families. That's why Minnesota Democrats are fighting for all working people to have paid family and medical leave. The time is now. Contact your legislator and tell them to pass paid family and medical leave for Minnesota. Learn more at paidleavemn.org. That's paidleavemn.org. Paid for by the Minnesota AFL-CIO.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Fossil fuel camps, like pipeline and oil drilling villages, are increasing violence against our Indigenous sisters. Temporary workers from these camps have led to a surge in sexual assaults. In North Dakota, assaults on women rose by 75% after man camps arrived during the 2000s oil boom. We must hold big oil companies accountable for this violence and demand action. By electing leaders that prioritize the health and safety of our Indigenous communities, we can fight back. Our vote is our voice. It's time to use it to protect our people, stand up for climate justice, and ensure a safe future for our next generations. Make voting a tradition, or MVAT, is about strengthening our Native communities. MVAT is here to boost our voter turnout and spark important conversations about the issues that matter most to us. Find your early voting location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a tradition so we can fight for the safety of our communities.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Community Conference in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Hey, we have our friend Bob Blake, the Solar Bear with the Solar News, the owner of Solar Bear, and also the CEO of the nonprofit Native Sun. And we love having our conversation about whatever Bob wants to talk about, but also he gives us some great insight. And there's so much knowledge that you have, Bob, that I just love hearing about what's going on around the whole world in renewable energy. Welcome back.
Hey, Robert, I want to talk to you about Minnesota's clean energy jobs. We just set a new state record, Robert. 62,102 clean energy jobs, a new state record. Clean energy jobs, clean energy jobs grew at a rate nearly 5 times faster than the state's overall job growth, Robert. 71% of small businesses drive Minnesota's clean energy sector, meaning, Robert, that 70% of the region's clean energy business employed fewer than 20 employees. So it's small businesses that are really driving the clean energy boom in the state of Minnesota. And what does that mean, honestly, Robert? That means middle class growth. That means strengthening democracy. That means folks, are getting out here. They're taking advantage of the wonderful policies and incentives that are being set forth for our state legislators and, of course, federal too on this. And so this is what's really driving this economic boom. And Robert, we know, because we talk about it here on Native Roots Radio, and we've been talking about it, Robert, for the last 7 years, that if we invest in clean energy jobs and manufacturing, that we will bring back the middle class, we will only strengthen democracy, and we will also be able to go ahead and lead in this sector in the Midwest and make Minnesota a leader, like maybe possibly having vice presidents in the White House and stuff like that. So I think that this is a perfect example of how we're doing that here in Minnesota, Robert.
Absolutely. And kudos to you, Bob, because I just have to say, we give you a kind of a quick, short intro, but I know you speak all around Turtle Island to all these groups about renewable energy and what nations and tribes can do. And we've talked about it turning over the whole tribal governments in a good way. And, I just have to give you so much credit for all the work that you've done. And we don't talk about that a lot, but I know you're a humble guy, but it's amazing what you do and do for our community.
Well, I got to go out to Los Angeles and accept this award next month. I'm getting asked to go out to the Navajo Nation and do a talk in December. Robert, honestly, right? Like, it's not about me. It's really about the work and our people. And I just feel so fortunate, Robert, that I'm in the position that I am in right now to be able to do this work, because there's nothing more that I love than Native people. I love our people so much. And to see us better, to see us healthy, to see us striving, and to see us leading in this space is really important, because let's be honest, Robert, I think it's important for Native people to do this because we are the only people in this government to have our own government. And so, with that, we have a responsibility to take care of Turtle Island, because like I've always said, Robert, it was our responsibility before everybody got here. It's going to be our responsibility after everyone leaves. Robert, let me throw out a few more, few more of these statistics here real quick, because I just think they're mind-boggling and I think they're wonderful. I think some of the things, when people think why is voting so important? or why is it not important, right, to vote? I just want to be able to say real quick that the policies that are implemented by our state legislators and our federal legislators. One of the things that we need to do is defend the clean energy and clean vehicle investments. Okay, so we need our politicians to do that. Develop and fund federal and state workforce development programs. That's super important. Invest in transmission. So we got to be able to carry the renewable energy on the transmission lines and advance state level clean energy policy. So, I mean, our state legislators, our federal legislators, if you're listening to this, these are the things that you need to focus on. And you as a voter out there, these are the people that you need to vote for so we can continue to grow and create good, clean energy jobs, living wage jobs for our communities and for the great state that we live in here in the state of Minnesota.
Absolutely. Good call. And, we have to vote for our sovereignty, and our relatives have to really understand that too. It's not 1928 right now. It's 2024, and we need to be at the table.
And I, that was one thing that kind of came up yesterday in the talk yesterday when I was talking to the educators. One of the questions, and I just told them, I said, I can't change the past, but I can change the future. And I think that this is the way that we do that we strengthen tribal sovereignty is through energy sovereignty. At the same time, though, I don't think that we need to let go of these things that our past generations continue to fight for. You know what I mean? That they fought for back in 1890 are just as relevant today in 2025 because they never, agreed to these terms. So we need to educate people about these kinds of situations and let them know that we're not going to quit and we're not going anywhere. And we'll still continue to resist, Robert, like you always say.
Exactly. And those shirts that you gave out during the 100 shirts went to Haley. Bob was handing out resist shirts at the presidential convention, the first Native American convention in Iowa, and even some people we were resisting got the shirt.
Yeah, he's handing them out to those people.
Truth be told, Haley, there was, let's be honest, a lot of people coming at us there, and I just had all these shirts in front of me, and Robert said, "Hey, just hand out a couple here and there, just like let them," and then they all just attacked me.
Yeah,
and I felt like this, and I was the key grip, by the way. I was the key grip, or what was I, the best boy, or what was I again, Robert?
You were key grip / best boy, and I was host and producer of Native Roots Radio, and so that means that you were bringing in the equipment in a good way. Oh, wow.
I was bringing in the equipment the good way, and I was bringing in the T-shirts the good way too.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Bob, I don't know if you were listening to the show earlier, but we're having our friend, the vice president candidate's wife on tomorrow, so we're excited about that.
Oh, wow. That is incredible. Robert, Robert, do you remember? I can't believe how far the show has come. Honestly.
I used to beg for guests, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We were just hanging out there in that basement and just hooting it up. And people talk about the show now all over the place.
Is anyone listening to this show?
I know, right? I hope so. Well, that's great, Robert, that she's coming on to enjoy
Gwen Walls.
Show. Yeah, that's awesome. And we know, Robert, that we all got to get out here and vote. We've got to be able to show up at the polls. And let's be honest, Robert. If this happens, then we will have our first Native American governor, and that is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we can say we know her too.
Right.
In community, she gives me one of those half a hugs, and it's good to see her.
Peggy is so wonderful. She's so beautiful. She's so awesome. She's just the nicest person in the world. And I know she can't be everything for everyone, right? Like that's impossible. But I mean, if we had to have someone that was like in that situation, I'm just saying Peggy's got to be pretty close to that. You know what I mean? So, I think she's wonderful, and I'm really super excited, and I'm so proud of her, Robert.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, we're excited. And, we're at that age, we're not intimidated by leaders, and we know that they put their, pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. And it's exciting to see somebody as smart and down to earth at the same time as the lieutenant governor is.
Yes, and then also not to forget all the other wonderful elected officials that we have, including yourself, Robert, that are doing the good work of the people and continue to fight for for our and speak for our sovereignty in our rights, Robert. So kudos to you and the rest of the folks. And I think I saw you all had Heather coming up next or something. So yeah, I mean,
State Representative Heather Keeler's up next.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like so proud of you guys, Robert, you and Heather.
And that was great reminiscing with you about the days that we used to have to beg people to come on the show.
Right. We filled the air.
Yeah, we
Robert,
sure did.
that was the solar news. That was the solar news with the solar bear.
Hey, good to see you, Bob. Hey, up next, State Representative Heather Keeler, and she's got a couple surprise guests with hers who will be right back after this short break. Oh,
Make voting a tradition empowers Native American communities through civic engagement. For nearly a decade, MVAT has increased voter turnout by encouraging friends, family, and neighbors to get involved. By building trust and community engagement, MVAT ensures Native voices help shape the future. This election season, voting is easier than ever. Minnesota voters can cast their ballots early so elders and busy voters can avoid the rush of Election Day. Find your nearest polling location at sos.state.mn.us and let's make voting a tradition for future generations.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
This November, we have a clear choice for who's truly fighting for our Indigenous communities in Minnesota. Democrats created the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force, made college tuition free for Native scholars, and legally affirmed our Native sovereignty. By signing co-stewardship agreements to manage federal lands, we return the lands of the Upper Sioux State Park to the Upper Sioux tribe and over 11,000 acres back to the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwa. This November, vote for the party that stands with our community. Vote Democrat. Paid for by the Minnesota Democrat Farmer Labor Party.
For everything you need to know about voting in Minnesota, visit the Secretary of State's website at mnvotes.org. Find out where to vote, check registration status, and view sample ballots. Again, for all your voting information, go to mnvotes.org.
Minnesotans age 65 plus might qualify for Health Partners Minnesota Senior Health Options. The plan includes personal support, coverage for medical, prescription drugs, and dental, plus over 30 extra benefits. Eligibility information is available at healthpartners.com/oneplan. Health Partners is a health plan that contracts with both Medicare and the Minnesota Medical Assistance Medicaid program to provide benefits of both programs to enrollees. Enrollment in Health Partners depends on contract renewal.
This November, we have a clear choice for who's truly fighting for our Indigenous communities in Minnesota. Democrats created the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force, made college tuition free for Native scholars, and legally affirmed our Native sovereignty. By signing co-stewardship agreements to manage federal lands, we returned the lands of the Upper Sioux State Park to the Upper Sioux tribe and over 11,000 acres back to the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwa. This November, vote for the party that stands with our community. Vote Democrat. Paid for by the Minnesota Democrat Farmer Labor Party.
For everything you need to know about voting in Minnesota, visit the Secretary of State's website at mnvotes.org. Find out where to vote, check registration status, and view sample ballots. Again, for all your voting information, go to mnvotes.org.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Haley, just remind everyone tomorrow we're going to have a chance to speak with Minnesota's First Lady, Gwen Walls, and we're going to talk about early voting and how to get to the polls, and it'll be good to see her again. Hey, we have a really cool show, Haley, right now, and we have our friend, State Representative Heather Keeler on, and Heather, welcome as always, and I know you have a few guests here, and I want to just hand the show over to you because you know what you're doing, and you are one of the best guest hosts that we have here on Native Roots Radio. Oh, wow.
Heard this before. Happy to be here. Thanks for letting me join. I feel like we're having some technical difficulties with my internet today, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of glitchy. You'll have to let me know. But we've been busy. As we know, we're less than 2 weeks away from the election, and it's one thing for me to do the work out in District 4A in Moorhead. But as I serve in multiple capacities, we talk about intersectionality in these seats. And, as one of the only enrolled members of a federally recognized tribe, it's really important that we also engage our tribal nations. And so this week alone, we were in Leech Lake on Sunday doing a GOTV vote event up there. And then we had a candidate forum up in Red Lake on Monday night. And it's really amazing to see every event we do. We have new community members engage and ask questions, and we have a lot of first-time voters, and they're in their 40s or 50s. And I love that because I think it's so important that we realize that our voice really has power. Our voice has weight. And so I just want to acknowledge the individuals in those communities that have done the work to organize. One of the pieces of legislation that we were able to pass, we often say we did 84 pieces of legislation to impact Indigenous communities and tribal nations in Minnesota. And some of them are small, some of them are big. One of the things we did was we made it, if a tribal nation requests a pop-up early voting site from a county, the county is required to do at least one pop-up site, and that's new. And so we have our tribal nations that expand over multiple counties, and we're really utilizing that tool to bring voting polls to our communities and tribal nations. And so want to give a big shout out to Jay and her team and the work they're doing out in Minnesota. Every tribal nation is doing their own, and individuals are engaging and having conversations, figuring out voting plans and rides. And so I want to pause. That was a long, hello, but want to make sure that we acknowledge the work that we've been doing, from border to border. Want to acknowledge that before I bring on my friends.
Right on. And I know we've had one of your friends on before, and it's great to see you read. And it'll be great to hear what you all have to say. Go ahead, State Representative, take over the show. Ho!
Oh, I'd love to. I love when you give me the opportunity to do this, especially when I get to bring my outstanding candidates running up in District 2. One of the things we talk about is geographically what the map looks like of Minnesota. If you look at a map and you look at the west side of the state, really from St. Cloud over, I'm the blue dot in a massively red sea in the House of Representatives. And it's like I can do that well, but I could do it better if we had a little bit of help. And I want to introduce the candidates that are running up in District 2A and 2B, I have become close friends with them. I feel like we see each other, on the trail and out in the northern woods of Minnesota. And so I want to first hand it over to Michael Reyes. When we talk about the work that we've been able to do for Indian country and tribal nations, it's because of representation. And it's because we've had Indigenous people sitting at tables. I think we can all say that. And with Jamie Becker-Finn retiring, it's critical that we work to get Indigenous people at this table. And so Michael is our candidate running up in a newly district area that includes 2 tribal nations that I think is really important to discuss. And so, Michael, you want to do an intro of who you are, what your district is, what you got going on up there? Thanks for joining us.
Buju, Michael Indigenous Cause, Makwan Dundame, Kamasquad Jimmy Cog and Dunjimba. Hi, my name is Mike Reyes. I'm a enrolled member of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. So the area I'm kind of running for here is, it encompasses 2 of the 3 largest reservations in Minnesota of Leech Lake and White Earth. So I'm enrolled on Leech Lake. I grew up here in Cass Lake. My father, he's enrolled in White Earth, and so I have a lot of family members over there too. And so when I started to run here, I kind of bring a kind of a variety of background to this new seat. Is 16 years of law enforcement, have 11 years of firefighting volunteer, and also some of the issues that we face in Native country, if it's missing and murdered Indigenous people. Started like search teams up here, worked on that. Things that we have been overlooked on throughout the state. I have been on some of those boards and pushed for some of those boards through working in law enforcement. The drug epidemic, I have, over a decade of drug prevention, went all over the country and presented to different tribes in different places. And doing that with, all at pretty much free at cost, usually just the room and meals, just so that knowledge is there so we can start saving our people. And the area that I'm representing is probably one of the highest per capita of overdose deaths. And so the candidate now that's in there, he really doesn't talk to the tribes and address some of these issues you need. So this is where I'm at, and this is who I am. And so I just hope people get out and want change.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And, I think one of the things that I've learned in politics is there's a difference in people who do this for like the political power, and then there's people who do this for the people. And when we were at the event on Sunday, and it was an evening event in Leech Lake, and Michael got up and he did his, talk and introduction. But one of the things he said really stuck out to me is that he was at a fire at like 5 a.m. that morning for his community, because he says, I still have community responsibilities to take care of my community. And so, it's putting candidates like that up on the DFL ticket is what makes me so proud to like bring these guys forward to you guys, because we're looking at the candidates that the GOP is putting up, and they're kind of just like really questionable as far as their character. And I'm just so proud of these guys, and I like want to share how wonderful of candidates we have in Greater Minnesota. And so, Michael, I just wanted to like acknowledge that, and acknowledge that a servant's heart is so pure and so real. And I hope that what people are learning about you as a candidate is that, you have this wonderful background, but it's your heart for your people that I think really like resonates when you speak and you talk. And so I'm so grateful for you for stepping forward for that purpose. And so talk to us just a little bit about like when you say you've done this work in law enforcement and you do this work in public safety with your volunteer fire work, what are some of the things that you've learned in the community that you would want to bring in your first term to educate us? Because that's an area, that we definitely need more educating on, because typically the law enforcement conversation comes from the other side of the aisle.
Well, so I've always taken that step out of the comfort zone, when somebody says they want somebody to run here, like usually, so I'm the chair of the Pike Bay Township. They wanted natives on this township, it's 85% native population, and we just never had that representation. So I ran, and at that time they were facing one of 2 townships in the state that had a law enforcement. And so I went in there with that experience and background, and then we allowed the people decide if they wanted to keep the law enforcement background. But the one thing I brought to that is to have the community have their voice be heard and allow them to voice that. And with my experience with that, I kind of give them the informational background of law enforcement, the community policing, what they're trying to switch to now, and changing how we look at government. So some of these local governments don't even look at tribes as a government. They look past them. They look down on us. Being in law enforcement, was the same way. There was that ignorance. There was that racism. And so being on these boards and showing that we're here, we're here regardless if they don't want it or not. And I used to say we were election out from having good sheriffs. And I can tell you right now, we do. With the 4 counties that encompass Leech Lake, Cass County, get along very well with the sheriff. Their chief deputy is a Leech Lake Road band member. He worked for tribal police. The Beltrami County sheriff, he worked for Leech Lake Tribal Police. And so when I think of all these people in these higher positions and sheriff, it just took that time, and it took those open voices, and it's the understanding with it. And so now that we're all working together, we're all be able to fight and stand up and curb some of the biggest epidemics that we've faced, not just in Native country, but everywhere in community. And anybody up here knows the only way that we survive is we stick together, and that's my biggest point I've been making to Democrats and Republicans. You want to vote down party lines, go ahead and be it. But there's a candidate here that I never got to pick and choose who I got to help. I'm just there to help. And I'm there to try to make a difference in whatever it is. If it's me picking up trash, if it's me leading the charge, then that is. And so in the law enforcement, that's what I did. I would be on these committees and I would voice my concerns. I'm not a quiet voice. And I would stand up and I would see the problems that we are. I would call things out, but not a disrespectful way, but in a way to show like, hey, this is wrong, what you're doing. And let's find a different solution for this and how we're looking at this. But you're trying to change generations after generations of this within a small amount of time. And it took time. And I'm saying I started in law enforcement in 2006, and that recently changed in probably 2019, 20. And that started changing with some of the legislative. Heather was probably in when they denied the concurrent jurisdiction the first time around because people were misinformed and uneducated on law enforcement. And so me bringing that in, it's what is law enforcement really there to do? It's to protect us. It is community service. It is to be there, and it's not just to arrest everybody. It's not to do that because you're never going to arrest your way out of a problem, but it's there to show us that that we're there to help when you need a call, and not try to throw us in jail, tow our cars, do everything to make our lives harder and make our family life harder. And so I've seen the uglies of the uglies through and the negative of the negatives day in, day out, but I've seen positive changes that have happened. And that's kind of what I want to bring to the table, is seeing that I worked in that.
I think that's so good. And I think the thing that you bring up that's so important is that we educate our colleagues. I've had to educate our colleagues that really think they're working aligned with sovereignty. And it's like, educating them as we go. So quick intro. We also have my friend Reed Olson, who's running on the other side of District 2 in Bemidji Red Lake area. Reed, you want to give us a quick intro to you, and we're going to head to break, and then we'll come back and have further conversations and dive in. Thanks, Michael, for joining us. Stick around afterwards so we can chat with you a little more. But Reed, you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah, Buju, Reed Olson, Indigenous Cause. Hi there, everybody. My name is Reed Olson. I don't have a whole lot of time to say, but I am running for the other side of the district for 2A. I'm really excited. I'm a small business owner. I've been in elected office for about 10 years, 4 years at the Bemidji City Council, 6 years and the Beltrami County, and I'll talk to you after the break, I guess.
Yeah,
Hey,
we'll be back. We'll chat with
Native
you
Roots
guys.
Radio.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
Indigenous communities are on the front lines of air pollution. Pipelines, mines, and waste incinerators are often built near our homes, harming Mother Earth and our health. The result? Higher rates of asthma, diabetes, heart disease, and other serious health problems. In the Twin Cities, air pollution disproportionately affects Native and Black communities. Indigenous Minnesotans, especially in the metro, experience over twice the rate of asthma compared to white Minnesotans. This pollution affects our quality of life and the future of our children. In Minneapolis, our vote helped close the Smith Foundry and bituminous roadways. Let's continue using our vote to fight for climate justice. Make Voting a Tradition, or MVAT, empowers Native communities by increasing voter turnout and supporting conversations about critical issues like clean air, water, and health. By getting involved, we shape the policies that protect our families and environment. Find your nearest polling location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a tradition for future generations.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1 U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh!
Oh! Well, these northern boys, they didn't get it. I feel like they need to do that again, right?
How?
We got to howl
our
for the
northern
wolves, right?
Hey, go ahead. Go ahead, Haley.
Howling for wolves for future generations. We got to practice.
All right.
Yeah.
I know these
Go ahead, Heather.
northern boys. We'll get them. All right. So welcome back. I'm going to take it back over, Robert, if that's okay. Gonna head in to have conversations with Reed. Reed is a stellar candidate. I've actually worked alongside Reed for the last couple years, really deeply on engaging communities up north and the importance of their vote. And so I think, one of the areas that is really near and dear to my heart that we talk about is homelessness. And preventing homelessness and why that's so important and critical to our Indigenous communities in general. But this is one of those heart areas when we talk about, putting really legit character-based individuals to the forefront as candidates. I deeply respect and love the work that Reed has done around preventing and supporting our homelessness community. So Reed, you want to talk a little bit about that with us?
Sure. Yeah. Where to begin? So I've been a cook most of my life, and I own a small restaurant in Bemidji with a business partner. And 2013, I joined the city council here in Bemidji, and shortly after that, I joined in January, I guess, but that summer, there was a lot of our several members of our unhoused population in Bemidji died from preventable deaths. And it really rocked the community, like for the first time. We are no stranger. Our community has never been a stranger to cold weather deaths of unhoused people. And it was just kind of the way that it was. But then finally, it really started to bother people. And we started having meetings in October of 2013 about, what can we do to help prevent these deaths and help people find some stability in their lives. And 2015, then an organization that called itself the Nameless Coalition for the Homeless, because we didn't have any idea of what to call ourselves. We ended up incorporating, and I was the board chair. We were able to raise some private funds and purchase a building to create a shelter. And in 2016, we opened up a 16-bed shelter. And now, almost 12 years later, we have a 26-bed shelter and a day center, and we serve, I don't know, last year we had close to 5,000 night stays at our seasonal overnight shelter. And right now our day center, we see 30 to 50 people a day, sometimes even more. And we work with partner agencies to try to help people find treatment if that's what they need, or therapy or stable housing or whatever it is. And like I said, I've been a cook my whole life and kind of stepped into this role. Now I'm the executive director of this organization. We have round the clock services, and I've really been learning just through hard knocks and just experience of how to run a nonprofit, how to get help for our people, for our neighbors. It's been really rewarding. Like I said before the break, I've been in elected office for about 10 years. On October, my restaurant will turn on Halloween rather. My restaurant will turn 19. But really, the most rewarding work that I've ever done in my life is working with the unhoused population here in Bemidji. It'd be no surprise to people listening that Native Americans are overrepresented at our shelter. They make up about 25% of our population, but they make up about 70% of the people that we serve at the shelter. And so I have a real firsthand knowledge of how horrible, or I guess it's secondhand knowledge technically. But I work with a lot of people that are in crisis and see the struggles that they have and really understand the importance of building more housing in rural Minnesota to make sure that people can get housing that they need. I see the need for more treatment beds and treatment options, because when people are ready to seek treatment, a lot of times there's a 6-month waiting list, and if you've got a really severe dependency on methamphetamines or opioids, waiting 6 months can be a life sentence. It can be pretty bad. So. Though there are many other things that I'm interested in doing when I get down to St. Paul, one of the primary things that I want to work on is building more housing and finding more mental health care and treatment options for people that really need it. This is an economic development issue as much as it is a humanitarian or compassionate issue. So very proud of the work that we've been able to do in this community. It wasn't easy to open up our shelter back in 2016. We got sued right away. And had to battle with that. So a lot of challenges along the way, but I think that as we've grown, the community sees us as an asset, and I'm excited to do more work at a larger scale down in St. Paul.
Which is so important because, again, not only the geographic spread of having somebody at the table to talk about, the issues and the need in the service areas and all these barriers that we have. When we talk about representation, I think it's important that we have people who work in these service areas too. It's one of the coolest things that we've seen about the last couple waves of classes that have come in the DFL particularly, is we are coming in as nurses, flight attendants, liaisons, social workers, people who are really doing the work in real life time, that are coming in to help make decisions on how to serve Minnesota. And so I love that. One of the things we've talked a lot about too, and I know we're running out of time, is we still have time left, and we still have time left to learn about these candidates and support them. We're knocking every day. I know that heading up north right now is really beautiful. The trees are lovely up there. I've been up there the last couple times. I know we're past the peak, but we'll start with Michael. Do you want to let us know some of your campaign needs in this last push? Let us know how people can engage, and then we'll head over to Reed to do the same.
I think one of my biggest needs right now is, to make sure that Indigenous people know that they have, it's their right to vote too. That's one of the biggest, things that I've faced. And that's even with my own family is, this isn't our election. We have our own tribal election. And so I guess my need out there is, all those that, have friends and relatives that are up in these areas, to let them know that they can vote. Their vote's going to change these elections. They're going to push people like me and Reed into an area that has always had a higher representation of Native people, but they don't vote. And, some of my need is just getting them out to vote. I'll have a door knocking event coming up. I think it's Sunday or Friday. We're just kind of setting that up, and we will do Helga Township. I know from Township, which is in Beltrami County. But that's one of my biggest needs is just to let people know that, get out there with their relatives and let them know that our vote does matter. So,
Yeah, that's important. And I think that's critical because we also say some of these elections are coming down to like 12 votes. And you don't want to come from a community that you feel like just you and your friends needed to go show up and that would make the difference. All right, Reed, let us know how we can engage with you, things you need, events you have coming up in these last couple days. You're muted.
We'll be door knocking every day until the election. We're going to be door knocking this weekend, like Heather said. Get on up here while there's still we're past peak, but it's still beautiful up here. So spend a weekend up here. Come up here on Saturday or Sunday. We'll be door knocking. We could also use some more money. So check out our website and send us some money if you can't make it up here. Tell your friends though to vote. Remind people with felon records that they can vote if they're out of prison. You don't have to be off paper. Get out there and vote. That's what we need more than anything. We just need you to show up.
We also need to make sure that you help get your relatives to the polls. Make sure you have rides set up. Engage, educate, and get involved.
Chimagwich.
Thank you.